Hello everyone. Well, I've been wanting to do this video for a while, ever since I did my videos on potential Pokemon Legends titles such as Arceus, as well as potential Generation 5 remakes. And now, time has come once again and to discuss a third installment that has been long talked about and even on occasion even potentially hinted at by Izuka, and especially after the success from Frontiers, I believe the ideal template for such a game is now. With my usual factors of what to keep from the previous installments, what to change, and what to add to this proposed new title, it will be again the usual categories. So here is what I'd want for my potential Sonic Adventure 3. Let's start with keeping the strongest element of the first two games. What really put the adventure in Sonic Adventure, the stage design and world building. In many respects, this game came out the same year as their own Shenmue, and when 2 full years before Grand Theft Auto 3 really set the stage for it being taking over the entire landscape. But it definitely wasn't really experimenting with open world design, with each stage being your hub world, also pretty fun to play around it on their own before you go into each individual stage. I mean, the second game was a different way, but how each stage was built, they waited from point A to point B, was for the most part are quite straightforward and a natural progression from the 2D installments. Once I'll get into this and the other points to keep and elements I'd like to see added. Good. But I definitely think that with advanced technology since the 128-bit era, the last time and they refer to consoles in those terms before, they just started sharing more and more technological terms with most PCs and smart devices is the element of the worlds and stages. While the balance of story and gameplay, as I admitted before, has often been tricky to get right in the series, when that balance is struck, it always tends to work out well. I mean, before these ones, the plot wasn't really much more complex in the game itself than smash Eggman's robots and save the entire your planet from disaster. But here, these elements often like just parts of a much larger story. We and that also applies to each individual character you can play as well. Not just a title character, but I like how they fleshed out more details for the existing ones with Amy, and her often good love for Sonic, with Knuckles being the last of Echidna and his connection to the Master Emerald, and Tails, they didn't keep intact like the canon event of him being lonely and less confident in himself before he met Sonic, and also did good job of fleshing out how even newer characters introduce the canon, and like the Shadow I just showed you, but also with Gamma. I mean, not it definitely ends up being surprisingly touching. His one, like how there's a lot of science fiction, and that definitely can use machines or to explore what it means to be alive, even to this day. And were a third game aim to come from this, I think this would definitely be crucial to keep. And especially, I'm enjoying how the Final Horizon of Frontiers also building on this aspect as well, which make a decent enough segue into my next point to keep. Though there have been many experiments and ever since the series went full 3D, and even more so since Sega left the console business to become a third party publisher and developer instead. And, the two constants of this franchise have been the mixture of speed and platforming. I mean, and of course, those elements will definitely remain in a third title. It'll mean where, of course, the sheer scale of the stages means you can't get through them as quickly as you could in the, the Genesis days, but the mixture of quick precision platforming is definitely remains a crucial element to this day. What's definitely the main factor in the platforming system for Mario, where because you would take your time more on a given stage. And those are three elements I definitely keep. Now let's get into things I would personally change. I would call in proverbial shots with such a game. Much as I love the first two adventure games, even I will admit that a hunting through shards of the Master Emerald was definitely one of the things I enjoyed least about them. Whether or not it was like Knuckles in the first game, as well as the addition of Rouge in the second, and and you basically were playing a game of hot and cold over the radar, and especially in the second game, where you couldn't really memorize position of the shards, where they just kept changing every time you respawned, on with never telling exactly where they were, only just beeping and the color of the shard getting warmer as you get closer to it. So I can't think of many people like playing hot and cold in the game. So there's a couple ways you could change this. You could actually have the shards, instead of in individual stages, put them in the game fields instead, and the hubs. Because that way you can there are more ways of like setting waypoints or tracking them that way. There's also more precise distance measurements. Like you see this in a fair amount of games, but one example I think most effective is like how the recent Spider-Man titles from Insomniac, where there's a precise movement about where to find someone trapped in the back of a car or a device you need to dispose of before it explodes. I think that kind of precision could be quite useful for finding the emerald shards, especially. As I mentioned, and similar to previous points, and whereas Bit the Cat as a character has not really has the same kind of reputation he used to. I'm on the many people invoking the Thanos perhaps treated too harshly meme in regards to how he's written. Even I will admit the emerald fishing missions was Pet Froggy, he were one of the few who issues I have the first game. So much so they were actually, I believe, totally absent from the second. And Frontiers definitely had a better approach, like the quick time avoidance and so the fishing holes. So those could work as an approach, or can make it even quicker as a similar approach to Sega's own bass fishing titles on Dreamcast, where it's more less based on realism and physics and more arcade style. Like the moment you get the hit, had a video in a very precise way, otherwise it won't work. I mean, and the third change, I think, are going to be requesting what potentially is going to be the most significant one I'm proposing. Though I am among the many people in the fan base who is willing to defend and the first two adventure titles as a whole for helping usher her series into their dimension. One aspect I actually think is a product of its time and could actually be considerably overhauled if a third one we made would be the camera angles and control. Granted, this is an occurring issue across the 3D installments that has been in a has been affecting the series in different ways, shape, or forms, different degrees of severity. I mean, the better 3D installments, it tends to not be too good a problem. But when the less well received ones, it tends to be bordering on game breaking. Making so it would be crucial to work out the camera's angle on the camera control in a very interesting way. Hey, I would say that Frontiers and heck, even to an extent, Forces have come the closest to who what I would have in mind, and especially with advancements in control systems such as Sony's DualSense and just how many different options they give you these days. I kind of like how now someone's can give you the option to shut off the screen shake and like the turning your UI red when you're low on health. I mean, so I definitely think that a third one could be the charm to really perfect the camera controls this time around. Now, let's get to what I would add to a third title. This was one aspect I definitely liked about the first two titles, where even when you weren't on an active stage, in the playing field, or when you went back and did them again for completion, and was a variety of activities you could do. So the reason why I used the Casinopolis was there was an example because there were slot machines, pinball machines, there was venturing through the the underground waterworks, and even just having like a freshening up a rain shower there. It's fun. There were kart racing in Twinkle Park. So, and of course the fan favorite Chow Garden, and even though the series has once moved away from that, it still remains memorable. So much so that fans and celebrities are even funding their own games and experience. So, with that being the case, is is one thing that keeps a lot of people playing in Tiles of Scale years later is not just the main conquest, but the amount of things you can do outside the story. And I think that would be perfect for a third title. Yeah. So one thing I definitely could see benefiting hitting a third adventure title was some of the advances that have been made in terms of attacks, not just in recent installments in this series, but in the many years that had then since their initial release. I definitely could tell that Frontiers did an ample job adapting into the changing landscape with stuff like the action chain challenges and upgradable skill trees and stuff like that. And let's just say one of the things I'm trying from the platinum is the getting the Phantom Rush and also the other combat abilities. He's I would actually love a similar system or an even better one was implemented in a potential third Sonic Adventure title. And especially since the first two games introduced a lot of new elements that are now stable, such as the homie attack, especially, a and Amy be using a Pico hammer in most scenarios she's been in as well. Now, granted, had not every element has stayed around. I'm actually kind of glad that let Shadows finally lay down his arms after a certain amount of time. Believe me, it'll be another time to address that. But I definitely think this would be a great way to handle this, which should bring me to our last thing I would like to see added. And while there's been some debate, not just in the fan base, but also in terms of development about how to approach Sue's legacy, I think we reach a point in pop culture history where embracing it is definitely the best way to go across the board, warts and all. Even if some people will try to inform you about the games otherwise, as I believe all of the legacy is worth celebrating in some capacity, not just parts of it that some people deem worthy of such. Whether that would mean something like the 3D Green Hill Zone Adventure 2 or Unlockable Game Gear Games DX, there is a reason why I used who's the Masonic Drift there. I think a wide amount of legacy content could be beneficial for a third title, especially as the series as a whole is this like, sub series is going to be something's 25th anniversary. In the States at least next year, but it's already celebrated 25th in Japan, and which definitely indicates my whole culture age right there. And I definitely believe that what's going to come to fruition, it would be highly beneficial to go this route. Anyway, that's one substantial Sonic video I've been wanting to do for a while. I have another scheduled fairly soon that I'm really working pretty hard on getting finished. So, and also looking very soon. So, gotta go fast.